Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm here.
What are you doing on your phone?
Well, I'm a mover and a shaker.
Yeah, what do you got going on there,
I'm
bud?
a mover and a shaker.
You playing some Candy Crush there, bud?
No,
not
mover
just
and a
talking
shaker,
about
guys.
Making some drug deals on your burner phone, getting in the
burner
mood
phone.
for our first discussion on...
Speaking of drugs.
Speaking of drugs, dark side of the stream today.
I want a new drug.
I want a new drug.
Did Joe actually watch this one?
One's what it
I
does,
did.
what it should.
The thing I hate about doing this is I feel like Jay leaves hairs in the microphone
Dude,
windscreen
everywhere in our studio are these random, long, stringy, super
Try
curly.
living with me.
They kind of remind me of some other kind of form of hair.
Just longer.
Don't want to get into that, but
Yeah.
dude, they're thick. I mean, you think about like Siberian husky curly hair. That's what Jay's got on his head.
Warrior status.
Warrior status. That's what he calls it. Warrior hair.
I'm getting sick. Oh.
Dark side of the stream this morning. Mike's choice, right? This is Mike's
my choice,
The
yeah.
Last Narc on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Public service announcement. If your stream is dark, you probably should go see a doctor.
Yes, definitely go
Thank you,
see a
Joe.
medical professional. What'd you guys think of the documentary?
It's good, man. I had to watch the first half of it over. I had to restart it because it was so
Felt like you
so
missed something?
deep and intense. Well, yeah, because of the subtitles. Because while I watch these streams, I play online poker, so I couldn't read all the subtitles. So I had to actually the next morning sit down and force myself to just watch and read because it was crazy.
It was
incredible.
insane. Wait, let me get this. Hold on, back. Let's go back. So while you've been watching these things, you've also been playing online poker.
Yeah,
So
that's
some
what I
of the
do
time, whenever we
what I
ask
do
him
for
straight up
years.
questions, Joey, and he kind of just looks at us, that means he was in a pretty intense poker game and wasn't paying
Could have been in
attention.
a big hand or something.
Are you actually gambling money, or can you legally say
it's
that?
money. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you realized
That's what I
that
do.
halfway through that they were actually speaking another language.
Yeah.
2 episodes in, he's like, I don't understand what's going on. Did I miss something? And he's like, oh, they're speaking Spanish.
I had to start over. It took me a while to register. But it was crazy because this is the actual U.S. agents and the actual federales that were working for.
Commandantes,
were working for. They were right there with the killings and stuff of these cartels. Crazy stuff,
So
man.
a little backtrack. It basically centers around Kiki Camarena, who was a DEA agent who was responsible for helping the DEA locate a massive marijuana field in Mexico, burning it to the ground, causing one of the head narcos of the time a lot of money. Actually, a lot of them a lot of money, and they were after him big time. They were pissed because I think there was, and you kind of find out that there was a miscommunication. They assumed that he was on the payroll, that he was getting paid, just like the narcos has paid everyone in government all the way to the top and the bottom, and that he was upset because he was getting payment and then still went after his field. But that wasn't actually the case. Kiki Camarena wasn't getting payment from the narcos. He was doing his job. Then he was tortured over numerous days and killed, and it was horrific. So after a couple of years, the DA's like, we still don't know what the hell happened because no one's talking. So they send this guy who worked for the DA, Hector, down there using his connections.
Let's stop right there and just say Hector is a badass.
Dude, one of the most intense dudes I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, and you couldn't write a character like him.
No, even his look and everything,
We
his
got our
demeanor.
aluminum foil hats on, and we're ready to discuss conspiracies.
Involved firefights down in Mexico.
You'd have to be that
I want to
intense.
say I love the way
you'd have
this
to be that
started because
intense.
basically it's the story of
But
five
before we
cops,
get
2
too much
clean and 3
into it,
dirty.
we gotta milk this thing for all it's worth. So we'll talk more about the other thing about that broke my heart. And we didn't mention this last time was that his next far as Hector was going. They didn't really come out and say it, but it's Mike the Intern discussing drug trafficking on the dark side of the stream this morning. Where to get him,
None
when
of
to
us
get
are
him,
involved
how to
in it.
get him.
None of us are
involved
involved
in
in
drug trafficking.
Someone
Someone close to him. We can't speak from experience.
No cavity search here.
But I actually
stories
am
of
a big fan
tortures
of
too
the
that
Netflix
they
series
really
Narcos.
Woo,
I
man.
followed Pablo Escobar,
Those guys don't
and
play down
after
there,
that
man.
went to the Cali
No,
cartel in Colombia, and then
suffered.
most recently
Suffered
actually
big
into
time.
the subject of who they're talking about
And
in
it's
the
heartbreaking.
Last Narc. So the Mexican
you come to the
conclusion in this thing that after watching this documentary, government wasn't really all that great. I mean, I understand it's a dramatization of the actual events, but man, they got that whole
you
damn
also
thing
get
wrong.
the conclusion that
at least this documentary is
They
what they need to do to
sugarcoated
get what
this
they want
documentary
done.
didn't sugarcoat
You
it.
think the stuff's still going on today?
Basically,
Yes.
the whole bottom line is like,
I think some of
Think they
it's
just got
government
smarter? Or
I think
what?
some
got
of it's out
busted,
on the.
right, with the
I think
whole
some of it's
trading arms
out
for
in the
drugs
open
and
right
stuff
now.
with the
for
Oliver
sure,
North and all that stuff.
money.
so they could keep
They really
fighting
got
communism
they got
in South
busted.
America.
We tried to deny it,
and so
our government
what
finally
if-
got
and if you
busted.
don't know, eventually the CIA
I
was
don't think
funding
you really want us to go down
guerrillas
that route.
in South
Yeah,
America.
I know.
That's the
More
thing. I just
communism
put
down there.
So what do we
On the
do?
FCC
So what do we do?
airways.
What do we do?
It's
Stop,
just
keep our heads down.
CIA
and the CIA was like,
vote.
we can figure out something.
Yeah, vote,
some other
but
way to
be
do
a good
this. How are we
person,
gonna do
man. Good
this?
person,
And
be a
that's
good
where
person,
the
man.
whole
See,
say
have
something.
a
Yeah,
clean-
say something.
have a
A lot of
clean
drugs in
conscience.
this country,
Hopefully
making money
you're
off
never in the
that,
wrong
arms
place at the
cells
wrong
in South
time.
America.
Yeah.
will
Never
help
have to
them fund
justify
and train.
something.
Now
Never
that
ha-
when
I mean,
the drug
it-
cartel
you know,
comes in,
I'm
at least
sure
in
that's
this
a guy
case,
that
they
lives in
actually
Florida
had
that was
a
a CIA
training
agent.
ground
Hector, not
that
Hector,
one of these guys
what was his
owned a
name?
ranch or
Yeah,
something where
Gomez,
they were
yeah,
training
yeah,
guerrillas
whatever his
at.
name was,
And
I'm
that
sure
was
that
all
he-
part of this
he
thing.
thinks that he was
Had
doing
these
the right
guys
thing
in
for
Mexico
his
just
country,
stayed in the
but,
weed
I mean, he
business, we probably
subverted
never
the
know who they were.
Constitution.
They could have made good money,
Killed a
but
fellow
eventually,
American,
for
killed a
some,
fellow
enough is not enough,
government
right?
agent. Yeah, well, there's so
was
many
part of
layers
that,
to this
helped torture
because
him,
I
helped
think what
interrogate
happened
him,
with Kiki
and,
Camarena,
I think
he
was
probably
that
goes
they
to bed at night
probably
thinking,
would
yeah,
not
I did what was
have
right for the country,
done
but
anything to him.
Can you live with
had
yourself like
he
that?
No, and
just
that's the thing. It's who gets to decide
discovered that plantation
and why do you get
and
to
had it
decide
burnt
that?
to the ground.
But you know,
What we get
figure
later
we're all-
on in the
figure we're all
documentary
brothers
is
here in
that
this
the
country,
DEA,
especially if you're in law
most of
enforcement,
them
to let that
in
happen.
Mexico were
to
on
what
the
end?
take.
And again, I think it
A
was
lot.
they
And
weren't
they-
really
and they wanted
concerned
him.
with the
It was
marijuana.
crazy
They
how
wanted
deep
him
There was.
dead
They make another
because
one.
he
It
wasn't
was
on the
training-
take,
training
and because he
organization
wasn't on
for
the take, they
Contras
were
and
afraid
CIA
of him.
was scared
And the
to
CIA
death.
was afraid of him
And
because
then
they
also
people
the
in
time
office.
and then
DEA
also the
laws
time
blew up
to
their
the
deal,
Mexican
so they-
government and
he
how
had
you know,
three
he was
strikes
getting
against him.
shipments
He had
and
the-
he was getting
he had
underpaid and all
the
that
cartels.
stuff.
He had his
Oh,
own
those
office,
high-ups
and he
guys
had
were-
his own country
and
against him,
poor
so he was a
Kiki,
dead man. He had no idea
One of the
about
things that
half
blew
of
my
what they were
mind
talking
was
about. All he was trying to do was take down a marijuana grow.
How the
And
whole
yet
thing
he had
works.
stumbled
You know what I
across
mean?
Stumbled-
Like
yeah.
after a few
CIA
He
years,
stumbled into something too
DA's
big.
like, we
government
don't know what happened
involvement
to
on
Kiki. We know
both
that he was
Mexico and
tortured.
the
We know
United
that he was
States. He
killed.
didn't know any
but
of
we
it
don't
when they
know.
tortured him to death.
We're
Wrong
pretty
place,
sure we know who
wrong
the major
time.
player is.
No,
but we need
one
to
of
really
his
find
guys-
out who they
what was it,
were.
the-
And so when
No, I'm
Hector,
sorry,
the
that was
DEA
something
agent
else.
in charge of that investigation,
Something else,
gets
sorry.
told he
On
needs
that
to do
note.
this,
So
he's
the
like,
lesson
I'm gonna
here
need millions of dollars to do
is,
this.
Run clean, man. Be a good
Because I'm
person.
gonna need
Yeah,
that's
right.
play
And
Candy
you
Crush
think
like
for a
Jay
second,
Stevens.
God,
And
they're
on
nothing.
and this is
poker.
just one instance.
So
Right,
it's
right.
How many
Power
different
trips
times
to our
Jay
government.
has
Right.
the
My
United
turn
States
next
the
week.
dark side
He
paid
was
out
getting
millions
shady
and
stuff.
millions
All
of
right.
dollars to some of the
Epstein.
worst criminals
The
to get
Epstein
out of
documentary?
Epstein felt the
Oh,
rich.
right.
Whoa!
Yeah,
that's
No,
the one
you
that's
wanna
the
talk
worst.
about
I've been
some
holding off
celebrities,
on
guys?
watching
You
that
wanna
one.
talk
No,
about
like,
some
we have three guys
government
before
high-ups,
Second
man?
might as well stay on that shit.
Yeah,
Get
get your attention before I
I
have
almost-
to trip.
was there something wrong with them?
Did you guys figure that out?
I
Yes.
suggest
Is that what it
everyone
was?
watch
You think
it.
that's what it was?
He's
Yeah,
another
we
one
doing a
like a
Facebook
weird
post
movie
about
character
these?
that you
Oh,
can
dude,
run
shit,
it,
yeah,
right?
we should.
Yeah.
Totally watch
And
that.
I
Oh my
get
God.
the
Epstein
fact
first.
why
Watch that
he-
documentary.
obviously he's not a
Meet
police
back here next
officer
week.
Joe
anymore,
is
but
the
he
fourth
wore
thing
a
they're wearing.
war
Stuff.
Still
Call
wore his
will be
uniform,
there. This
right,
whole
yeah,
thing.
very
If you
true.
haven't already
Has some
watched the
ghosts. You're right
documentary,
about that. I
and
mean,
then we will
the
discuss
special
it
He said
next
at one
week.
point
Dark
the
Side of the
ghosts
Street,
behind him,
Follow
yeah, the
4.7
ghosts behind
K.
him.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness gracious. I mean, again, it's like it always goes back to the whole thing about doing illegal activities like for money. It's like most of the time, if it'd be just easier if you just got a normal job. It's not as exciting, and you're probably not going to make as much money. But
you're definitely not.
you have to work so much harder to be a criminal than to stay on top of it and to be like constantly watching your back and stuff. It's
They
like
chase
almost
that
not
money,
worth
man.
it.
It's like it's so much money.
I know, but
You know?
is it what?
And those guys, the three major cartel players, basically got off scot-free.
Right. Still
Oh,
still
yeah.
to this
They're
day.
they're most of
got
them are out. Yeah,
arrested.
most-
Then they said,
they're out.
no. Let's let you guys are going to let them free. And our government goes, okay, we'll give them back to you. Yeah, you're right. It was all so shady how their government was so involved and our government was so involved. Very shady, dude.
I mean, the president of Mexico was taking drug shipments.
That are made in this show that kind of blew my mind. Next on the Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 7, The Cave. It's pretty weird once you start learning about how like local law enforcement back in the day kind of ran things like the mob did in major cities, you know?
You know, Springfield has up until 9/11, the single biggest loss of law enforcement officers in one day.
Because of Bonnie and Clyde.
No, not because of Bonnie and Clyde. Springfield. That was over in Joplin. This was there was a killing.
Oh, the brothers.
Yeah,
the brothers.
two brothers.
Yeah, the
that,
brothers thing. Yeah, that's right. Up until 9/11. Yeah.
Basically
I don't know the story.
ambushed city police and a couple of sheriff's deputies.
Yeah, they were going to go arrest these two brothers that were wanted somewhere in town.
And the house still stands. It's out between the airport and Willard. And they went to arrest these guys, and the guys had submachine guns, and they didn't know it, and they just laid down fire and killed I think 7
Wow,
police officers,
man.
5 to 7.
That incident pretty much led to like the super arming of local law enforcement across the country. I mean, after that, they were like, we can't let these guys outpower us, because in that situation, everyone that showed up that was law enforcement
Had
was
their little
definitely
pistols. Right,
outpowered.
Yeah, and Clyde Barrow
Crazy.
was raiding armories and taking those BAR rifles, which are just, if you get hit with one of those, you're basically dead.
We got to find a History of Springfield documentary and watch that one.
Well, there's
discuss
that
it
one, the
this.
music
Yeah.
one.
We'll
but
get
I'd
to
like
that.
to find out
Yeah,
about
we're gonna get to that
mob
for
crime
sure.
one. But anyway, this documentary here, this Last Narc, if you ever think, is their government shady or not? Watch something like this, and you're like,
Yeah.
pretty much solidifies how shady things can be at the top.
Yeah,
When
and-
you listen to somebody from the CIA say that we don't function within the Constitution of the United States,
Right.
you go, wait, what?
aren't you funded by government and taxpayer dollars?
Well,
I
the
doubt
law,
it very
baby.
Not
seriously.
anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
not
that's what
really.
this is alluding to, though, was that they were funding
They
themselves
funded
through the drug
themselves
trafficking.
by letting drugs
And selling
in here and
arms
hand
to
in
other
to the
selling
Mexican
arms.
government.
selling arms to other countries,
Yep.
arms that were later used against us in wars.
Yep.
And the only way we found out was by one of the planes got shot down or something, right? Is that what blew the big can off of it? That one guy was flying from Arkansas or whatever to down there. And the
he
plane
was
got shot
Wisconsin.
down or whatever.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the
Wisconsin.
one was
Yeah.
was Arkansas
Yeah.
too. The one the movie was made about.
Yeah, dude was
with Tom Cruise. That movie, he was in Arkansas. Yeah.
yeah, and that's how the thing got blown out, and it's so insane to think. But then you the way they did this documentary by just starting at the beginning and letting him just kind of go through the investigation and letting it unfold as he found out about everything. And the thing that blew my mind and it also broke my heart was they talk about these reports, they call them DEA 6s, and it's not like a memo where you could write something and it just goes away. It's like, this is in stone, it's filed, and this is how it goes. Well, Hector kept putting in, hey, there's obviously some CIA involvement here. They keep talking about this Cuban guy, keeps coming up, and I'm pretty sure he's CIA, and he was there in the room when Kiki was getting interrogated. And he literally knew this guy was a DEA agent, and either because he was protecting the CIA interest or his own or his connections or whatever, let his fellow countrymen get tortured that way.
And you see
it
the
breaks
guy
your
at
heart.
Congress hearings and stuff.
Yeah, and so
Oh, man.
Hector finds all this stuff out, and and then all of a sudden his superior's like, stop putting stuff about the CIA in there, and he's like, but that's what I'm finding. No, just go after the drug cartel. That's it. Anything else you find, don't put it in there. It's
So
like,
shady.
well, what's his job? What's his job here? Is he to search for justice? Is that what this is?
And then they set him up.
Then they set him up.
They asked him to
that story in itself, the doctor story, was crazy.
They ask him to kidnap a guy.
Yep.
He does it, and then they throw him under the bus and say, well, he didn't have authorization to do it. Well,
Yep.
he got authorization
Yeah,
to do
man.
it. And he had 2 or 3 other credible people say he totally had authorization to do it.
Yep.
He wouldn't have done anything like that. And everything that you see would
and
have
then
been
they give
funded.
that doctor back to the Mexico.
That was and that was in the news, and then they put it on him and said rogue DEA agent went after him. The thing that gave this documentary so much validity is what Joe said. All these guys that were acting supervisors in all these different places, not only talking about how great Hector was, but like, look, this guy was doing his job.
Yep.
And then you've got all these individuals that, the one that kind of scared the hell out of me was the gray-haired dude that was real calm. And,
Pimp, dude.
Hector was
Pimp.
like flipping out about stuff. And he's like, there's no way we're going to bring all these guys down. And he's like, you're not going to be able to do that. There's no way. Good luck to you. And he knew.
He knew the game.
Because he had been, he goes, this isn't, because he goes, this isn't Mexico. This is the United States. And the guy's like, so what? I've seen it in my government.
Yep.
It's happening in yours.
Happening in
And he
yours
couldn't
too,
believe
man.
it. And that just breaks your heart because you see a guy that gets, he's immigrant. He ain't got no chance in hell. He gets this far up in law enforcement. He's doing everything by the book, wants to do it right, gets this far, and then his old country to sell him out. Hell, our country sold Kiki Camarena out all day.
Dark
and if
side
you
of the
watch this
stream.
and you don't come to that conclusion, I don't know what to tell you.
Dark side of the stream, man. You learn a lot.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was.
It really
It's
was.
heartbreaking for his family. It's heartbreaking for Hector because he's a good guy, good cop, doing what he should be doing.
Yeah.
Badass.
A badass guy.
But he ran into, it's not like Lethal Weapon or Die Hard where ultimately
The good guy wins.
the
Yeah,
good guy wins
yeah.
and takes
Nope.
down the bad guy from the government and the CIA. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen. The government and the CIA won.
It's heartbreaking. And in the next and last segment, we'll talk about whether or not we think this stuff is still actually going on.
Yes.
Get your aluminum foil hats out on the dark side of the stream on 104.7 The Cave. We got our aluminum foil hats on, and we are ready to discuss conspiracies. Dark side of the stream. We've been discussing the Last Narc.
Wait for just a second. I want to say I love the way that this started because basically it's the story of 5 cops, 2 clean and 3 dirty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, the other thing about that broke my heart, and we didn't mention this last time, was that as far as Hector was going, they didn't really come out and say it, but it's pretty assumed that his boss was also on the take and was selling him out. And then that's how they knew where to get him, when to get him, how to get him.
What he was wearing.
Yeah. Someone close to him. And he had kids, wife, loved him. Family man,
and the stories of the different tortures too that these guys were relating.
Goodness gracious almighty!
Man, gosh!
Oh goodness gracious!
Those guys
almighty.
don't play down there, man.
No. You do not mess with the cartel.
He suffered
big time. He did big time, and it's heartbreaking. So you come to the conclusion in this thing that the United States government wasn't really all that great in the 80s. Probably a little bit further back than that. You also get the conclusion that certain facets of government will do what they need to do to get what they want done. You think this stuff's still going on today?
Yes.
Yep, for sure.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I think some of
they just got smarter. Or
I think
what?
some of it's out on the. I think some of it's out in the open right now.
Yeah, for sure. Power and money. You just people do crazy things, man.
Yep.
And so to what end? I mean, is it just?
Yeah, I don't think you really want us to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, I know. That's the thing. So what do we do?
FCC
So what do we
airwaves.
do here? What do we do? Just keep our heads down, and that's just the way.
Vote.
Just vote. But
or
again,
be a good person, man.
Be a good
Just
person.
be a good person,
decent
man.
person.
You see something. Say something.
Have a clean conscience.
Hopefully, you're never in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Never have to justify something. I mean, I'm sure that the guy that lives in Florida that was a CIA agent.
Not Hector. God, what was his
Gomez.
name? Yeah, Gomez. Yeah.
Whatever his
right.
name was, I'm sure that he thinks that he was doing the right thing for his country, but I mean, he subverted the Constitution. He killed a fellow American. He killed a fellow government agent. Was part of that. Helped torture him. Helped interrogate him. And I think he probably goes to bed at night thinking, "Yeah, I did what was right for the country, but." Can you live with yourself like that?
No, and that's the thing. It's who gets to decide that.
Yeah.
And why do you get to decide that? And we figure we're all brothers here in this country, especially if you're in law enforcement, to let that happen. To what end? And again, I think they weren't really concerned with the marijuana field. They could care less. They'd make another one. It was the training organization for the Contras and the CIA was scared to death.
And then
also
people
the
in his
ties,
own office.
and also the
Deep
ties
levels.
to the Mexican government and how who was getting shipments and who was getting them paid and all that stuff. And God,
those high ups.
Those guys and the poor Kiki. He had no idea about half of what they were talking about. All he was trying to do was take down a marijuana grow.
And that was it.
And yet he had stumbled across
He
CIA,
stumbled into something too big.
government involvement on both Mexico and the United States. He didn't know any of it when they tortured him to death.
Wrong place, wrong time.
No, one of his guys, what was it? No, I'm sorry. That was something else. Something else. Sorry.
On that note,
So the lesson here is
run clean, man. Be a good person.
Yeah,
That's right.
Play Candy Crush like Jay
I
Stevens
ain't
and
playing
online
no
poker.
Candy Crush.
So it's what, Jay or Joe's turn?
Jay's turn.
Jay's turn next
My
week
turn next
for
week?
the Dark Side of the Stream.
You
We're
guys
going to
can't
watch
put me on the spot like this. All right. Epstein.
the Epstein documentary.
Epstein Filthy Rich.
Man,
What?
oh god!
No, you want to talk about?
I've been
some
holding
cover-ups?
off on watching
you
that
want to talk
one.
about some government high-ups?
We might as well stay on that tip.
Yo,
then, huh?
get
Oh,
ready.
geez Louise.
Get your tinfoil hats out for sure.
I almost watched it, and then I was like, I don't really want to go down this road right
I suggest everyone watch it.
now. Okay.
Okay. Are we doing a Facebook post about these? About where
We should.
people
Yeah,
can
we
watch
should.
these?
Yeah, tell everybody to watch
Yeah,
it.
We
I'll do one.
Epstein, Filthy
Yeah,
Rich.
that's a
Watch
good
that
idea.
documentary. We back here next week.
Joe is the forward thinker of the group, so that's a good call. We'll be posting this on Facebook, but again, if you haven't already, watch the documentary, and then we will discuss it next week. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.